I want to say, I'm going to flip this around now. And I mentioned this when we started the episode, that the opposite is happening in the States. And what I meant by that is their rental rates are decreasing in over 50% of 100 major centers. So they took 100 major cities, over 50% of them, their rental rates have begun to decrease. For the first time in, I think, 2 years, 20% are stagnant. So that's probably almost 75% are effectively flat or going down.
Now, some of this is seasonal, but keep
and
going.
The 25, well, and that's 25% of it is the last remaining, I'll say the high-end markets are continuing to go up. But the places that dropped the most were just on the outskirts of the high-end area. So places like LA, San Fran, New York, Florida. Those cores, the cores have remained strong, but auxiliary markets just outside of that are not doing so hot.
Well, that's interesting, and we have a Patreon episode about some of the pros and cons of investing in secondary markets.
Yep.
Right, so check that out. Okay, two things.
This is kind of sketchy. Like, this is why the States is a whole different animal. You got rates going down, or interest rates going up.
Yeah.
Rental rates going down. So if you own...
Job market's still through the roof, though.
Job market's through the roof.
But here's the thing. I think that's a bit of a BS stat. We have to follow that a little bit because people forget.
It's purely seasonal.
You know as well as I do that rental rates are seasonal. Rental rates always go down in the fall. Always. Since the dawn of time.
They're not going down anywhere here.
It's
slower. I'll say it's slower.
Yeah. I would... I don't know. We don't have... I don't know if you have any data here locally, but I've heard anecdotally from people like, man, I'm having trouble filling my unit right now. Like, and some of that is maybe people want the creme de la creme and so many what you'd call blue chip tenants. I don't know what term to use, but like they're if they're in their unit, they're happy with it. They're not moving.
But on the side note, we're also saying that there's people sleeping in tents. There's way too many people here.
Yeah.
We can't house all the people.
Yeah.
So even with the seasonal movements, realistically, we should not be facing things going down.
Well, if people
We're
don't
saying
have the
record
money,
low
they don't
vacancies.
have the money, right? Like, you know, how
There's-
come
but some of these
housing
people-
prices
I
aren't
mean-
still going up, right? Well, because people can't afford the houses, right? There are people who need houses, but they can't afford them, so the price can't go up anymore. I think some of that is going to be seasonal. I do think, though, it's inevitable, right? Like, people are getting squeezed. They have to be mindful of their budget. And I do think a lot of tenants are hunkering down. I'd be really interested to see the turnover rate of tenant. Like, there was a time as a tenant, you would hop from building to building. You're like, no, I'm in this building. Oh, this building's a little newer. And as landlords used to give away
shop the best deals.
A free TV and 1 month's rent. Do you
remember those? Yeah, in Clayton Park. Yeah,
they'd go to Clayton Park. They build a new building, and what they do is they'd give you a free TV and 1 month of free rent to move from the building down the street to the new building. And they would often have your mailing address because chances are they were the same builder that built the one down the road. And what they would do is they'd build them, get them to 95% occupancy, refi, or they would sell it to a REIT because their contract would say, listen, as soon as you
their tenants.
Exactly, as soon as you have 90% occupancy, we'll buy it. And then they would just steal the tenants from their old previous building. Anyway.
I mail all of Chandler's tenants.
So... like, that was a thing, but I think right now tenants are saying, I've got a good thing. I'm happy where I'm at. I'm not moving, right? Maybe I'm in a month to month and I've got rent predictability. Maybe I just kind of like my place. Better the devil you know than the devil you don't. Maybe they've got an awesome landlord like Chandler. And
I'm just surprised that there's that many people that are like, housing's your number one item, and I understand the affordability issue, but I figured people would bite the bullet and say, I need a unit, and I would try and cut elsewhere before... being like, I'll live on a couch, or I'll live in my parents' basement, or I'll live in a tent. You know what I mean? Like, I understand not buying, because buying is not necessarily a necessity, but I figure that people wanting a roof over their head, that's why I think renting to me is more concerning. The housing market, I feel like 50% of buyers are trying to time the market. You know what I mean? Because everyone looks at it as their biggest asset. And so right now, I think a lot of people are holding off. Mixed because, they can't afford where they want it to be, but also because everyone's trying to time the market and they don't want to catch a falling knife.
Yeah.
When you sign a lease, you're like, well, I can leave in a year, I can leave in 6 months, or whatever it may be. Yeah. They're just like, I need somewhere to live.
So you think rates are still going up here locally?
Rental rates?
Yeah.
I would say rental rates are continuing to climb. I think we did go through a little bit of a slow period.
Comment below if you've been renting a place recently, like if you've been turning over some of your units. Comment below what I'm sure you're still getting the rates, but there's a big difference. Like you can start seeing the shoe drop, and it was the same in the real estate market on sales.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, we're still getting our like 50 over, but rather than 15 offers, there was only 6.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, are the number of showings dropping? I'd be curious to hear what people say. Just comment below.
It'll shoot back up when we have this many with the 500,000 people coming.
Oh yeah. Next, like, I remember when we talked about the housing situation, and I even had this conversation with some tenants who were moving out of a new building that I purchased. It was like, you realize it's bad now. In August, when the students arrive, it is going to be impossible. And all of these new people next year, we thought it was bad this year. Like, how many students are stacked on top of each other or had to go back home? And interestingly, across the board, almost every single university in Nova Scotia was down on enrollment. I think there was one that maybe stayed about the same. All the rest were down.
Yep.
Where are they going to go next year? Where are they going to go?
What was the reasoning for the enrollment reduction?
I think that's probably a loaded question, but I think, I mean, we were here and we were screaming about how the whole university factory system is flawed. I think people are starting to feel that way.
I think that general idea is starting to slow, and they're also, like, nowadays there's a lot of career options that are outside of the university path.
100%.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I'm speculating. I know sometimes there's some ebbs and flows about, Atlantic Canadian universities have a big draw for a little while, and then it comes back down, and then people are going elsewhere. But
they're going to have to modify curriculums to try and recapture people's intention. Maybe you'll see shorter programs. I feel like that will be a big change, is shorter programs, because a lot of programs, people are like, yeah, what I learned in year 1, and now I'm coming out in year 5, and it's irrelevant.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people that said, so I can do a 5-year arts degree and struggle to get employment, or I can do a certificate in project management and get hired at any contracting company, any GC.
You can probably get them
country.
to cover.
They'll probably pay for it. Yeah,
courses.
Yeah,
and
I'm not dumping on arts degrees. I've got a couple arts degrees. I'm saying, but like, it's 5 years to get something that is harder to take to market in the marketplace we've had over the last 2 years.
Oh yeah.
Whereas you could get a bunch of certificates and go out there and, make bank day one. Right.
100%. I saw the same in my class, engineering degree, and we all thought that it was going to be easy peasy getting a job, and it was not. It was not. I'd say 50% of the class walked out with a job. The other 50
became
time.
realtors.
For my class specifically, maybe.
When I was broke, I had rich habits. When I was broke, I had rich habits.